Assalamu alaikum, beautiful people. Salam, namaste and adab. A warm welcome to all of you present here today. I welcome you once again with the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace, mercy and blessings of the Almighty be on all of you. I am Fazila Fatima coming to you from the Boss Ladies Club. This is our next event. Eid al-Adha is right around the corner, so this event is Eid special. We are going to be sharing with you the legendary history behind Eid al-Adha, which is also known as Bakrid. We often hear the story of Prophet Ibrahim and his family when we talk about Eid. This event is going to be a little special. We're going to come with you with the story in a different angle. The first session was supposed to be held by my teammate Arshia Muin. Unfortunately, she fell sick and she could not do this session. I request all of you to please pray for her. Please pray she recovers soon. I'm missing you, Arshia, here. Wish you could join us today. Having said that, like I said, today we are going to be talking about the legendary history behind Eid al-Adha. Now, before I introduce you to the boss lady in our topic, boss lady of the bygone era is the topic of our event. Now, before I introduce this boss lady to you, I am going to take you through the journey of how one of the greatest prophets of Islam, also known as the father of all prophets, Prophet Ibrahim, met this lady. I'll start off with narrating you the first part of the story, which we have called as a profound union. Sit with a popcorn. We're going to be doing a story session now. So there was once a young boy named Ibrahim who lived in a place called Canaan. He was a curious young lad, always asking questions about the existence of God and how everything came into place and how did everything happen. He would question his father, he would question the people around him all the time. And they used to get angry because they did not like being questioned about the existence of God and all of that. At one point, they got so angry with him that they wanted to burn him alive. They wanted to burn this young boy alive just because he was questioned about the existence of God. So they kindled a huge bonfire where they planned to throw Ibrahim, this young boy Ibrahim, into. You know, some narrations say that this bonfire was so hot, the flames were so high and hot that the birds that used to fly over the bonfire used to fall into the fire. That's how tall the flames were, and that's how hot the bonfire was. The bonfire was so hot that these people had to back away from the flames, from the heat of the flames, and to, you know, increase the bonfire, they sent fuel on bullock carts to the bonfire. That is how hot it was. So then we know that there's a huge bonfire out now. Since they themselves are not able to go near the bonfire, they tie up this young boy Ibrahim in ropes and chains. And they put him on a catapult and send him in the direction of the bonfire. Imagine yourself in that scene. Your hands are tied, your legs are tied up, and you see a prominent death in front of you. You are being, pushed right into a huge bonfire. What will the thoughts be? We would know that it is going to be death for us, all because you kept questioning these people and angered these people on the existence of God. And we would have already decided, Inna lillahi, we would have told off there itself for ourselves. But this young boy Ibrahim said, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel, which means, my Lord is enough for me and He is the best disposer of affairs. My Lord is enough for me. My Lord is enough for me. He kept repeating that his Lord would protect him. He was making this dua and the people were looking at him. They're watching this boy tied up in chains being thrown into the fire. And they're not able to believe what they see. So the fire dies out. And they see that this boy is alive, untouched, has not been burnt, even an inch of him has not been burnt. He is walking out all alive. They are shocked. They are witnessing a miracle in front of them. They knew how hot the fire was. It was obvious the person was supposed to burn to ashes. But here is this boy walking out alive. They are shocked. The Almighty, answering Ibrahim's duas, had decreed the fire. O fire, be cool for Ibrahim. Be the means of peace for Ibrahim. And so the fire did not harm Prophet Ibrahim at all. You know, if someone had tied you up in ropes and chains, for the fire to be a means of peace to you and to not burn you, like it burned out only the chains and the ropes without burning Prophet Ibrahim at all. That is how the Creator answered Prophet Ibrahim's prayers. As he was released, he felt so in peace. You know, later in life, Prophet Ibrahim says that the most peaceful that he ever felt in his life, the most comfortable that he ever felt in his life was that time when he was in that fire. SubhanAllah, imagine for a fire to be a place of peace for a person. How the Creator would have answered the prayers of this young boy. And the kind of faith that this young boy had on his Creator, that it was imminent death for him and he still believed that his Creator would protect him. So the people were witnessing a miracle. And another young boy walks up to Prophet Ibrahim. His name was Lut. And he says that I believe in the Creator that you believe. Because only the Creator can make miracles happen like this. And many people follow suit. Now, a king named Nimrud hears about this young lad who walked out of the fire all alive. Now he wants to debate with him on the existence of God. Because Nimrud was a king who used to proclaim himself to be God. So it was obvious when he heard that a young boy walked out alive talking about a God that he believed in, he wanted to debate about it. Now, narration says that Nimrud was a king who, used to drag out two prisoners who already, had death sentence over them. He used to drag them out in front of the public and would kill one person and say, see, I caused death. Like, so life and death is in my control. See, I killed him, so I gave him death. And then he looks at the other prisoner and says, I'm going to let you go. And he would tell everyone, see, I gave him life. So that is how he used to proclaim and make people believe that he was God and life and death was in his hands. When he says this to Prophet Ibrahim saw that it is no point arguing with a fool who did not understand the actual meaning of life. He simply said, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. My God makes that happen. If you can rise the sun from the west, then I will worship you. Saying these words, he simply turns around and walks away. Prophet Ibrahim used to knock out people on debates, and not by arguing or, insulting the other person or any of that. He would just coolly, simply just state things and walk away from that scene, winning the argument, winning the debate. And that is what happens here too. Look at the intellect of this young boy. He was a young man then. And that was a king in front of him. They could have easily killed him. But look at the way he handled the situation. Now, Prophet Ibrahim leaves that place and sets off on a journey, which would eventually lead him to the boss lady of our story. The Prophet Ibrahim meets a noble lady named Lady Sarah. And she happens to be one of the first set of people who believe in the preachings of Prophet Ibrahim. And so they get married and live a happy life in what we know as Palestine today. They become wealthy, they start helping people. Some believe that Prophet Ibrahim was so wealthy that he had 4,000 hunting dogs with golden chains around their necks. And people who are jealous of him obviously used to question him, telling, oh, look how, ghamandi he is, and how, show off, trying to show off, putting gold on dogs. Prophet Ibrahim would simply say, look at my wife and look at me. Do you see us adorning the gold? It is to show, it is a lesson for me that all this is just materialistic. My main thing is to please my Creator and to help people. SubhanAllah, that is the character of Prophet Ibrahim. Now they are having a happy life, but unfortunately for decades they don't have any children at all. This is where the entry of Lady Hajra comes in. So are you ready for the entry of Lady Hajra, the boss lady? Now Prophet Ibrahim and Lady Sarah are now living, like I said, in a place called Sham, and that place is hit by severe drought. And so they start traveling in a different direction, and they happen to reach a place called what we know today as Egypt. And now this place was ruled by a king for a very long time. So when these two entered the kingdom, people immediately saw them as foreigners. And it was common that time that when men desired a married woman, they would kill the husband just to acquire that woman. And Prophet Ibrahim knew of this. So when the people, spoke about these two foreigners in their kingdom and went back to their king and reported about this, the king obviously wanted to see that lady whose beauty they were talking about and all of that, and wanted to know who this man was that accompanied her. So when the soldiers approach Prophet Ibrahim and Lady Sarah, they ask who this, who she is. And the smartness of his move is just amazing. Prophet Ibrahim says, she is my sister. Now, it does not mean that a prophet lied here. That is not what you take from here. It is the smartness of the move. He knew that they would kill him otherwise. He had to safeguard their lives, which is why he said so. Now the soldiers are taking away Lady Sarah to the king. And obviously she's distressed. Prophet Ibrahim tells her, just gives her an advice and gives her strength and tells her, don't forget that our protector, that our creator is protecting us. Remember that our creator is protecting us. Now Lady Sarah is taken to the king. She is depressed. She obviously does not want to be there at all, and she is constantly praying to God. When the king enters the room, he sees her so depressed that he starts offering her gold and silver, just so she's not depressed. And in that process, he falls asleep. So there are 3 different narrations of how this story panned out. I'm going to be telling you one of the narrations which are almost authentic. But the end result of all these, narrations are the same. You'll know why. So now the scene is, the king is there, Lady Sarah is there. Lady Sarah is depressed and doesn't want to be there. The king is watching her all depressed and is offering her gold ornaments, silver and whatnot, just so she, she's not depressed as such. And in that process, he falls asleep. In his sleep, he gets a dream that if he takes advantage of Lady Sarah, then it would lead him to his own destruction. So he wakes up all alarmed and scared, and he does not touch Lady Sarah and he lets her go. And in fact, in return, he gives her a gift, a young woman. Now, few narrations say that this young woman was the daughter of the king himself, so probably the princess. Some narrations say otherwise. Now that young lady was Lady Hajra. So it is possible that she was a princess and she happened to enter their life such. Lady Sarah in her wisdom asks Prophet Ibrahim to marry Lady Hajra. And that is how, ladies and gentlemen, Lady Hajra enters the life of Prophet Ibrahim. This young woman was going to go on to become the boss lady of the bygone era, and you will know why. Like, you must be wondering why we are calling this young Lady Hajra as the boss lady. You will know as we go on with the story. So now a profound union has happened. Prophet Ibrahim, being the father of all prophets, has married this young woman, Lady Hajra. And as we know that the Lady Sarah and Prophet Ibrahim did not have children for a very long time. After marrying Lady Hajra, they are blessed. After a short period of time, they are blessed with a baby boy. Lady Hajra and Prophet Ibrahim are blessed with a baby boy. And they name that baby boy Ismail. So now it's a beautiful family. They, they have a baby too now. They're living all happy. They're all settled. So did the story end there? What happened next? And why are we calling Lady Hajra as the boss lady? questions, wondering why. Y'all would have heard the story that I've told you now, that was of Prophet Ibrahim and his childhood and how this whole, thing came about. When you think about it, when you think of putting yourself in Prophet Ibrahim's place when he was young, you could not imagine what decisions you may have taken then. Right when they were, pushing you into the bonfire, Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un, right there we would have told that to ourselves. But the wisdom that young Ibrahim had and the kind of confidence and faith that he had in his Creator is what makes it beautiful. And the wisdom of Lady Sarah and how they tackled the whole situation with the king, beautiful. So now a profound union has happened. They are a happy family. So I have now given you the backdrop of Prophet Ibrahim's story and the entry of our boss lady. To know why we are calling her, why we are calling Lady Hajra as the boss lady, I'm going to ask you to tune in at 3 p.m. where we are going to talk about the next session, all the twists that happen in their story and the challenges, the more challenges and miracles that are going to happen in the story. You will have Rana Fatima, another team member, co-team member of the Boss Ladies Club, handling the next session. She will continue the next part of the story. Stay tuned. Come back at 3 p.m. to know what happens